Hello everybody, it's me, FrailWail, and today I'm drawing famous LEGO YouTuber just2good if he were Venomized. I start off here by tracing a screenshot of his head. You can see that I tried to make long and gooey antennas, but I didn't like it at all, so I just decided to come back to them later. After attempting that, I finish up the head by adding the lower jaw. It's a simple process, but with the line thickness I used, it got a little cramped. Overall though, it was just easy tracing. Then I just fill in the mouth area with black and move on to the arms. I found this image of a mantis lady thing, so I chopped off her arms and put them in place of just2good's. I did this because I wanted to give him mantis-like arms, but I didn't think I would be able to draw that really well without a guide, so if those are your arms, drop a like.
Look, Ma, I'm YouTubering.
Anyway, it was around this point where I realized that I've traced literally everything so far, so I continued to do it. I noticed that this claw is shaped weirdly compared to the other one, so I changed that later on. Now I'm struggling to make these spiky things because of my line thickness that I refuse to change. I wrote thickness with 2 C's in the script. After I finish up whatever these are, we can briefly move on to the torso, which is now. And when I said briefly, I meant briefly, because in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're on the legs. Now I start off by just making basic bubbly legs like I did on Venomized LEGO Machine X, but then I realized that this drawing would look super basic if I kept that, so I pulled up the reference image I used for the pose, which was a Marvel Legends Lasher figure, and traced the shape of the legs. Now I attempted to draw the left foot about a million different times. First I tried to trace Lash's foot, but it looked horrible. So then I tried to copy paste the only good looking toe, that's weird to say, but that looked horrible. Then I stopped to think about how this is stupid. Then I tried to stretch the toes, still weird to say, which it didn't work in the slightest. So then I tried to trace the toes from the other foot and brought them over, to which that looked horrible. So I tried to stretch them, but that looked horrible. I tried to redraw the toes to make them look proportionately better, but I concluded that maybe 3 toes is easier. I tried drawing each toe, but ended up just copy-pasting the biggest one and went with that. Finally, I move on to the other leg. I trace each portion of the leg from the Lasher action figure like I did with the other one. Then soon after, the other foot. I knew what I was going for this time, so I didn't take as long on this foot, though what I ended up with in this part did not end up being the final version. Now I start to touch up and smooth out some areas around the body so all the limbs don't look disconnected like on an action figure. Then I come back to the antennas. Antennae? Anyway, I just traced the antennae from Ash and Flash's minifigure drawing of just2good. Wonderful. More tracing. And then smooth out the hip area. Since the legs look very separated, I give more shape to just2good's pelvis. Wow, I hate having to commentate on everything. Next up, I smooth out his left claw thing like I said I would. This proves I didn't entirely trace the entire drawing. After that, I can move on to the details. I start with just2good's mask, face, which has a lot more detail and shape than I originally thought it did. I mean, look at all these lines. After drawing all of that, I begin to make the eyes, nostrils. I drew them in the shape of Venom's eyes for no particular reason. I just wanted to give them shape, you know. Well, don't they look like very nice nostrils, right? Yeah. Moving on to the arm details, the Mantis Lady drawing thing had this kind of striped pattern, so I just carried that on to the rest of the arms. Then, of course, I repeated the process onto the other arm because consistency is something you want for the most part. You can see that I just use a stretched out version of the forearm to make the lines because I'm not smart enough to make the lines myself. And now I can move on to the legs. I had no idea what to do for the legs going into them, but then I had the idea to make it a 50-50 split of color. I used the Marvel Legends action figure of Scream because she had just what I had in mind. I stretched out each portion of her legs to fit what I drew and traced the symbiote pattern. In addition, I traced the same looking design from Lasher's torso. For the last bit of detail I do for now, I make the eyes more venomy since they probably wouldn't be spherical if a symbiote were to actually take over. All I do is make them triangle shaped and flowy. Now I move on to the coloring phase. You can see that I also touch up on some more areas before I start fully coloring, just to smooth out everything and actually make it look organic, I guess. Since there isn't too much to comment on here, I'm just going to let you listen to the music. Hey, I'm back. Anyway, now I realized that I barely made it look venomized, so I draw an unrealistically large tongue. Do mantids even have tongues? After that, I draw a bunch of lines in the mouth to represent teeth. Are they triangles or just really ziggy-zaggy lines? I mean, I should know because I drew them, but I don't. This is the part where I realized that his right foot is ugly, so I just copy-paste the other foot, reorientate it, and call it a day. Oh, and I also make it flow with the pattern, of course. After taking a look at what I ended with, I realized that it looked really bland, so I try shading for the first time in forever. I make the background red to make sure that the highlighter tool didn't bleed onto the background, and then I ended up with this beautiful venomized mantis boy. I hope you enjoyed watching me draw this drawing because it was really fun to draw, and also I made a black and white variant, so look at that. Okay, bye now.